The issues we have been attempting to address through the process of the Aga Khan Award for Architecture are not exclusive to the Muslim world. The non-Muslim world struggles equally with explosive population growth, poverty, environmental degradation, exodus from rural areas, globalization, and the impact on cultural identity of new forms of media. I am therefore convinced that supporting diversity and cultures under threat is a worthwhile and fruitful venture. This leads me to the fundamental question we sought to answer in establishing these awards. It is one which I think is applicable to any initiative which is aimed at nurturing and supporting cultures at risk. How do we protect the past, and how do we inspire the future?
Looking at the magnificent work that has been undertaken here, we cannot but be grateful to His Highness. This effort has been an instructive example for us in finding new and creative solutions to the age-old problems of allocating scarce resources in a developing country for the preservation of our ancestral heritage. These efforts have been greatly valued in India. We see these as symbols of His Highness's vision for the world, a vision that is imbued with the true spirit of compassion, humanism, and social conscience. These are truly the hallmark of Islam.
I call upon the architect, Mr. Diabedo Francis Kere, and the chief of the Gando village, Mr. Buri Kere. I call upon the chairman of the technical committee, Old Jerusalem City Revitalization Program, Mr. Hisham Kadumi. I call upon the architect, Mr. Cesar Pelli.
The Aga Khan Award for Architecture was founded in 1977 to focus attention on the architectural achievements of Islamic societies. The award seeks out excellence and heightens awareness of the rich and varied Islamic architectural tradition. It celebrates a broad range of achievements, from social housing and community improvement to reuse, conservation, and contemporary design. There have been enormous contrasts between winners throughout the award's history. In 1989, both this affordable housing project, the Grameen Bank Housing Programme in Bangladesh, and the Institut du Monde in Paris won awards. Strikingly different buildings that reveal the unique pluralistic nature of the award. The award is part of the Aga Khan Trust for Culture that focuses on the physical, social, cultural and economic revitalization of communities in the Muslim world. To qualify, projects must be designed for or used by Muslim communities. They must also have been completed within the past 12 years and have been in use for a minimum of 1 year prior to entry. Up to $500,000, the world's largest architectural prize, is awarded to projects selected by an independent master jury appointed for each triennial cycle. The 9-member jury is chosen by the award steering committee, chaired by the Aga Khan. The steering committee also set the criteria and thematic direction of each award cycle. Because of the broad range of issues and locations involved, professionals from all backgrounds and religions are appointed to the jury. It chooses a shortlist from several hundred submissions. On-site reviewers then visit these projects, returning to present their findings at a final meeting. This is when the winning projects are selected. Issues raised by the awards generate enormous debate amongst the jury and beyond. Ultimately, it is this vigorous discourse that is the key purpose of the awards. This is extended beyond the jury rooms to publications and sponsored seminars that in turn stimulate thought-provoking ideas about architecture in the wider world. The first cycle of the awards in 1980 established themes of social responsibility and sustainability. Controversy followed when an award was made to a self-help community planning program, the Kampung Improvement Program in Jakarta, Indonesia. Prior to this, spontaneous building was largely considered to be outside of the realm of architecture. But with the first award, the architectural community was encouraged to reappraise its definition of architecture. Over the past 8 award cycles, there has been a concern to encourage sustainable building types that provide solutions for new or improved housing. The Grameen Bank housing program in Bangladesh is an example of how a community can be empowered by very modest means. As well as social schemes, excellence in private housing has also been recognised. The Salinger residence in Malaysia is hand-built using traditional skills, yet has a strikingly modern presence. The awards have a long-standing tradition of rewarding conservation. Many cities have a wonderful heritage that has disintegrated. With the right approach and skills, entire towns can be brought back to life. Awards were made in 1995 for the conservation of Old Sana'a, Yemen, and for the conservation of Mostar Old Town in Bosnia-Herzegovina in 1986. Juries have recognised the social and cultural importance of historic monuments and awarded projects that restore such buildings. The Great Omari Mosque in Lebanon dates from the late 13th century. The 1989 jury saw its reconstruction as a beacon in a tortured land. The restoration of the 14th century tomb of Shah Rukni Alam in Pakistan is one of many projects that have seen the rediscovery of long-lost crafts and skills. Contemporary pressures on the built environment mean many old structures can no longer be used for their original purpose. The awards have therefore encouraged imaginative, adaptive reuse of buildings. This building in Qatar was once a ruined palace, but is now the National Museum. In 2001, an award was given to a scheme called New Life for Old Structures in locations throughout Iran. Here, the country's unique built heritage was preserved through the adaptive use of private and public spaces. The question of how to regenerate urban areas has been an important consideration for the awards. Solutions include the Great Mosque of Riyadh and Old City Centre redevelopment in Saudi Arabia, that won an award in 1995 for reinterpreting styles of the past to create a meaningful dialogue with the present. Other approaches include innovative landscaping schemes like Baghi Ferdowsi Park on the outskirts of Tehran. The context of buildings is important, whether in relation to the setting in which they are built or the use to which they are put. The 1998 jury commended the design of the Lepers Hospital in Kopdar Taluka, India, for creating an attractive and friendly sheltering enclave within a barren and hostile environment. In extreme contrast is the 5-star Datai Hotel, built in the rainforest of Langkawi, Malaysia. The award in 2001 was given in recognition of its outstanding environmental sensitivity. The Aga Khan Awards have promoted examples of architecture where the construction technology has seemed wholly appropriate. The Hajj terminal in Riyadh was designed to house the 1 million or more pilgrims who make their way to Mecca every year. This prompted the design of the largest roof in the world. The 1983 jury called the design brilliant and imaginative. In 1980, these elegant water towers in Kuwait City were awarded for the ways in which they integrated modern technology, aesthetic values, functional needs, and social facilities in a public space. Throughout its 25-year history, the award has celebrated outstanding excellence in contemporary architecture. Examples include Vidhan Bhavan, the striking State Assembly building in Bhopal, India, designed by architect Charles Correa and awarded in 1998. And the National Assembly building in Dhaka, Bangladesh, designed by Louis Kahn. Awarded in 1989, the building is now widely regarded as a masterpiece. As a recognition of lifetime achievements, the Special Chairman's Award was established. There have been just 3 recipients since 1980. The first was to Hassan Fatih, an Egyptian architect, artist and poet, in acknowledgement of his lifelong commitment to architecture. Iraqi architect Rifat Chadirji was presented with the Chairman's Award in 1986 for his work in synthesizing elements of contextual architecture with key principles of 20th century design. In the last cycle, the Chairman's Award went to the Sri Lankan architect Jeffrey Bawa. His striking use of interior and exterior space put him amongst the great international architects. Despite these many areas of recognition, the award is still searching for exemplary solutions to certain building types. These include affordable mass housing, hospitals, work environments, and industrial spaces. As the search for excellence continues, the jury of the 9th cycle of the Aga Khan Award for Architecture has selected a diverse range of building types from different parts of the world. In the 24-year tradition of the awards, the jury has chosen 7 agenda-setting projects that provide yet more inspiring and thought-provoking solutions to the compelling questions in architecture today. The Bibliotheca Alexandrina in Egypt was conceived as a centre of learning and cultural debate, a window through which Egypt could look out to the world, and through which the world could look back and view Egypt. The Bibliotheca is the result of a highly successful international competition led by the Egyptian government that saw the winning architects Snøhetta of Norway form a consortium with Egyptian engineering firm Hamza Associates. The building is a revival of the legendary ancient library built in classical Greek times, once the most famous library in the world. The new library, built on a site close to the original, was created to return Alexandria to its ancient glory, and to create an institution that could be a modern focal point for services and resources in the region. The design is a response to the brief that called for a building with flexible space that would comply with all local regulations, as well as offering ease of access for disabled users. In scale, the building also needed to be sympathetic to its surroundings. The solution was a tilted disc that rises from the ground and faces out towards the sea. With 4 levels below ground and 7 above, there were complex technical problems to overcome. The circular diaphragm wall is considered the largest in the world, with a diameter of 160 metres and a height of 35 metres. The half submersion of the building 18 metres below ground on a site close to the sea raised serious structural problems. The complex solution to the foundations and substructure is unique and is the most innovative part of the project. The circular shape was adopted because it is the form found in all cultures relating to the heavenly bodies, through which humans first understood the passage of time. The exterior wall is clad with 4,000 granite blocks, carved with letters from the alphabets of the world, letters which spring magically to life at night. Inside, the vast main reading room has seating for 2,000. terraces break up the scale into smaller, less intimidating spaces, more conducive to meditative contemplation and learning. There is an emphasis upon digital technology throughout. A successful feature of the building is its use of natural light. The windows were computer designed to capture the maximum amount of light whilst avoiding direct sunlight and glare. "18,000 people a day use the library, which houses a wealth of resources, from specialist museums and libraries to research centres and galleries. There is also a planetarium, with seating for 99 people. It is made from a sphere, the inside of which mirrors our imaginary view of outer space. From the outside, it forms a giant ball, the main focus of the plaza. A pool surrounding the library on 3 sides connects ground and sky in its reflection and serves to further delineate the building's form. The distinctive presence of the building gives it a monumental quality, a powerful icon that can be read from across the bay. At the same time, by carefully tilting the building so that it appears to grow from the ground, its scale is kept in keeping with the city behind it. The building has been highly popular, in particular with the many students and schoolchildren who use it. They see it as a modern project that connects them to the world. It has acted as a catalyst for improvement in the infrastructure elsewhere in the city. The building has also been an excellent example of how an international consortium can be successfully brought together, an achievement of organisation and planning in itself. Its greatest contribution, however, is a symbolic one. Once again, Alexandria has a great library, one that is a landmark for the country as a whole, one that puts Egypt firmly on the map as an open, modern centre of cultural exchange. The old city of Jerusalem has suffered from long-standing neglect, a situation that worsened in 1995, when non-resident natives were required to return to the city or risk losing their identification papers. This rapid increase in population resulted in overcrowding and a deterioration in living conditions. The Welfare Association, founded in 1983 to support Palestinian development plans, set up an office here in 1995, made up of trained professionals from a number of backgrounds. Its aim was a comprehensive program for the rehabilitation of the old city. This project is known as the Old City of Jerusalem Revitalization Program. This was made up of a revitalization plan, emergency restoration, total restoration, conservation training, a community outreach program, and an information centre. The revitalization plan forms the basis of the program's work. Extensive surveys of the city have been conducted, building a picture of the state of the city and helping to identify the buildings at risk. These are selected either for emergency or total restoration. The dilapidated nature of the city means most projects are of the latter. Inappropriate earlier additions are removed and replaced with lightweight new structures that are added in accordance with international conservation standards. Local methods and materials are used for the renovation of plastering and stone flooring. New openings or additions are not generally allowed. Aluminium windows are replaced by traditional timber ones. When restoring houses, there is great sensitivity to the needs of the inhabitants. Families are provided with a separate kitchen, bathroom and toilet, as well as basic services such as water, heating and electricity. Sometimes it's hard to find space for facilities for which the original building was not designed. In these cases, the services are incorporated into a communal courtyard. The restoration programme in the Old City has created a growing market for architectural firms and contractors. In addition, training programmes have been developed to establish standards and guidelines for restoration work. There are also educational programmes and a community outreach initiative to raise public awareness and encourage participation in the rehabilitation process. The political system can make it hard for Palestinian contractors to travel, and work is often delayed. Despite this, by the end of 2003, 82 residential projects, 26 public and 55 commercial buildings had been restored through the programme. A significant restoration and revitalisation of the rich historic fabric of the Old City. The local reaction has been extremely positive, and the programme has created many jobs for professionals, labourers and craftspeople. In spite of a difficult political environment, the programme has succeeded in implementing high standards with professionalism and enthusiasm. The revitalisation is a model of excellence for all such projects, a symbol of hope in a troubled part of the world. Gando is a small village with a population of 3,000, located in the south of Burkina Faso, 200 kilometers from the capital, Ouagadougou. A primary school was built here in 1990, but because of its poor quality, it fell into disrepair. Diabedo Carrere was the first villager to study abroad. As an architecture student in Berlin, he fully appreciated the value of education and embarked on a project to build a replacement school in Gando. Successfully raising funds in Germany with a scheme called Bricks for the Gando School, Carrere also got the support of Locomat, an agency in Burkina Faso that promotes the use of local building materials and training. Building work started in October 2000, and the school was completed in July 2001. The school was designed to be low cost and provide some comfort from the local climate. Hence its careful east-west positioning, which minimises the impact of direct sunlight. To ensure sustainability, the design needed to utilise local materials and skills, at the same time as adapting technology from the industrial world in a simple, appropriate way. The building is made up of 3 classrooms in a row. The walls, made of traditional stabilised and compressed earth blocks, support concrete beams which run across the walls. Mounted to these are steel bars upon which the ceiling, also made from earth blocks, rests. Earth for the bricks came from the local village and were made on site by villagers trained by Locomat. Steel rods normally used to reinforce concrete were welded into a series of V-shapes to create a space frame. This floats above the main building and supports an elevated roof made of corrugated metal sheets. The large space between ceiling and roof allows the air circulation necessary in such a hot climate. The roof also provides shade for outdoor areas between the classroom sections. These areas are used for outdoor lessons and play, and benefit from the shade provided by the parasol-like roof. Materials were readily available, and the skills of cutting and welding were easily learnt by local people. There are a number of details that indicate the thought that went into the design. A raised teaching platform gives pupils a clearer view of the teacher. Rounded corners on the exterior brick supports reduce the risk of injuries. The earth block walls absorb heat and so help keep the classrooms cool. Shuttered windows made from steel provide plenty of adjustable light. The new school has made a dramatic difference to the children of the area, who are now able to take pride in a building that offers hope and renewed confidence in their future. The Gando Primary School is an inspiring example of how an architect has made a meaningful contribution to the community he came from, through a simple building of incredible vision. Throughout the world, millions of people are homeless as a result of natural disasters and wars. Iranian architect Nada Khalili has devoted 30 years trying to find a sustainable solution to this problem. Khalili gave up conventional architectural work in 1975 to study vernacular mud construction in Iran. There, he began experimenting with ways of using the most freely available material, earth, as a means of building. He eventually developed a simple but effective form of construction using sandbags, which are filled with earth. The resulting sausage shape is then wrapped in an ever-rising and narrowing circle until the structure is complete. The circular shape is incredibly strong. Barbed wire is used to bind the bags together, helping prevent them from shifting to such an extent that they can resist earthquakes. As such, the shelters have passed some of the world's most rigorous building codes. Sandbags and barbed wire are associated with war, and Khalili enjoys the irony that the same materials are now being used for construction, not destruction. Empowering the poor and dispossessed to construct their own sustainable housing. Khalili's inspiration was in part provided by principles in Iranian architecture and Sufi philosophy. The integration of elements of earth, water, air, and fire. The harnessing of sustainable energy, sun, shade, geometry and symmetry, and the unity of tension and compression. The bags can be made of either natural or synthetic material. If the shelter is temporary, the bags can be allowed to degrade and the building returns to earth. For permanent buildings, longer-lasting synthetic material is preferable. With the addition of a layer of mud daub or other finishing, the structure can be transformed from a makeshift assembly into a permanent structure. Extensions can easily be added to create more complex and suitable accommodation. The compact domes have a high level of insulation and are extremely resistant to hurricanes, floods and fire. The thick walls resist rapid changes in external temperature. Prototypes of the Sandbag shelters have met the requirements of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees for emergency housing. In 1995, both the UNHCR and the United Nations Development Programme chose to use the system to provide temporary shelter for a flood of refugees from Iraq to Iran. In 1991, Khalili founded the Californian Institute of Earth, Art and Architecture, or CalEarth, a non-profit making research and educational organisation that explores everything from construction on the Moon and Mars to the development of housing for the world's poorest people. Individuals are trained by an extensive teaching programme and then carry this knowledge to the many countries in the world that can benefit from it. As a result, Sandbag shelters have been built in countries ranging from Mexico to Afghanistan. This ingenious building technique empowers unskilled men and women, young and old, to build for themselves. The shelters are an excellent example of how the local environment can be harnessed in a surprisingly simple way and provide an unexpected, sustainable solution to help solve the most fundamental housing problem of today. The village of Boyukasın is set in a mountainous region of northwest Turkey, an area of great historical and archaeological interest. Just below the village, looking out towards hills and the distant Aegean coast, is the B2 house, designed by architect Han Tumertakan, who conceived the idea of a private residence for two brothers, who wanted a simple retreat away from their hectic urban lifestyle. The actual site upon which the house is built is triangular shaped. It is also sharply sloping, with a 7-metre drop from north to south towards the sea. The height difference is resolved by the use of terraces, a traditional solution which is employed by other houses in the region. Local materials like timber, volcanic and granite stone have been reinterpreted for use in the B2 house, with a modern, formalised treatment. Shuttered concrete was used to create a structural frame for the stone that fills both the walls at either end of the house and the roof. From this angle, one can see how the house is literally wrapped in stone. Whilst the stone has no structural purpose, it binds the house to its environment. It creates something new which is both part of the local tradition, but is at the same time unique and separate from it. The use of stone and concrete allowed the house to be constructed easily by local builders. In fact, only the windows and sliding doors needed to be brought from Istanbul. The theme of nature framed by the man-made is most dramatically stated inside the house. Here, large windows open onto the panoramic views of the landscape, which is revealed once the reed shutters at the front of the house are opened. The rear doors are similarly reed-framed in aluminium. Further doors then open up into the main living area, a simply furnished space which is all about the view. When the shutters are open, exterior and interior become one. The open-plan interior living space is uncluttered and utilitarian. The stones that clad the exterior are also the natural material for the interior walls. At the rear of the living room is a small, practical kitchenette. To maximise interior space, there is no internal staircase. Lower and upper floors are connected by an external staircase made of wooden planks on a steel frame. On the lower floor, the staircase creates a ceiling for an external room, complete with bench and fireplace. On the upper floor, there's a deck at the back of the 2 bedrooms, which divide the upper floor into 2 equal halves. The bedrooms are separated by a wall that doubles as cupboards. Sliding doors allow access between rooms. The bedrooms also have access to a continuous balcony that runs between the 2 rooms. The use of concrete and the vigorous, almost brutal quality of its highly formalistic design might suggest that the B2 house would jar with its traditional and natural surroundings. In fact, it appears as an extension of the landscape it looks out onto. The B2 house is a perfect example of how sophisticated ideas and aesthetic values can be realised in a modest project with relatively simple materials and construction techniques. Al Abbas Mosque in Yemen was built over 800 years ago. It is a building of great historical significance. Unusually, it is possible to trace the exact date of the mosque's construction, as well as the names of its architect and builder, thanks to inscriptions on the walls. The mosque is located at an isolated spot on the side of a 2,000-metre high hill, 40 kilometres from Sana'a. The mosque is an important meeting place for tribesmen who gather here to discuss local issues and to pray. Women visit the mosque to pray at the tomb of a holy man who is buried here and after whom the mosque is named. The lower walls of the mosque are built from stone. The upper parts are built from mud bricks. It's a modest-sized building, measuring only 10.5 metres square with a height of 6 metres. The exterior detail is equally modest and unremarkable. The mosque's most important architectural feature is its elaborate coffered ceiling, which provides a unique example of the architectural style of 12th century Yemen. The ceiling is made up of 22 caissons, three-dimensional stepped openings that are punched into a space between inner ceiling and outer roof. Here it is possible to see the more roughshod, behind-the-scenes timber construction that supports and shapes the ceiling. Each opening differs in both size and the number of steps it has. These increase as they get closer to the mihrab, with the caisson closest featuring 7 steps representing the 7 layers of heaven. Damage to the ceiling meant that in 1985 it was taken to the National Museum at Sana'a, where careful restoration under the supervision of French archaeologist Marie-Laine Barré began in 1987, a process that took a painstaking 3 years. Barré used a variety of solvents to clean the roof panels and then fix the decoration with the diluted resin. If original areas of paint had been lost, they were left. If new board was used, it was either left without any ornamentation or only partially painted. Trompe-l'oeil painting was also used to show where timberwork was lost. In 1990, the project was brought to an end by both the Gulf War and the Civil War in Yemen. Local Helwan tribes insisted that the ceiling should be returned to its original location. The problem was that by then, the structure of the mosque itself needed major repairs. A hole in the roof was a particular concern. Marie-Laine Barré was asked to undertake this work, and she recruited the Yemeni architect Abdullah al-Hadrami to help. With a team of French and Yemeni archaeologists and local craftsmen, the project was finally completed in 1996. The aim of the team was to use as many traditional materials and techniques as possible, without modern intervention. There were repairs to the exterior walls. Previous inappropriate repairs were removed and replaced with new bricks, made in the same way as the originals. Internal wall surfaces were renewed with mud plaster, covered by a top coat of gypsum, rubbed with mustard oil to create a patina. The floor was coated with kadad, a traditional mortar made from lime and volcanic aggregate. It was then polished and daubed with animal fat. Electricity was installed and electric bulbs used to illuminate the traditional lamps. A major reconstruction of the roof then took place, before the ceiling, now separated into hundreds of different pieces at the museum, was assembled like a puzzle. The parts numbered, then returned and installed piece by piece under the newly strengthened roof of the mosque. Now restored, the mosque has been brought back to life, a valuable, living, breathing part of the community, rather than a museum exhibit. The restoration has been of great interest to local people, who are proud of their mosque and its beautiful ceiling. It stands as an excellent example of sensitive restoration that will inspire future generations to learn about their culture and history. The principles used in this restoration are a model for future projects, an excellent example of cooperation between local and foreign experts. The Petronas Towers are the centrepiece of a vast development programme called the Kuala Lumpur City Centre, or KLCC, that sits at the heart of the Malaysian capital's business district. This location was formerly a racecourse, and the decision to redevelop it provided the opportunity to create an urban centre that would reinforce Kuala Lumpur's status as an international city. It was decided that this should have a distinct Malaysian identity, reflecting the multicultural feel of the country's culture. At 432 metres, the twin Petronas Towers are the world's tallest buildings. As well as incorporating several leading technologies, the buildings were sensitively designed to respond to their setting. Many materials, including the exterior cladding, were supplied locally. Architect Caesar Pelli used a geometric pattern to create the building's unique form. This is based on two interlocking squares that form an 8-pointed star, a traditional Islamic motif. This was adapted with the addition of 8 semicircles that bridged the corners of the squares to create more floor space. This plan gives the towers their distinctive profile with protruding points and lobes. The towers taper inwards at 6 points as they climb towards the sky. The upper levels slope inwards and give the towers a deceptively slender form. At the top, a conical spire and a 73.5-metre high pinnacle help the towers achieve their record-breaking height. A double layer of stainless steel bullnose sunscreens create a series of silver ribbons around the towers. These, and the use of tinted laminated glass, helps reduce heat entering the building from sunlight. The visual effect creates a rich geometric design with an ever-changing series of patterned reflections. In addition to the reflectors, the building uses an innovative cool recovery system, which powers the cooling of air from the outside as it is drawn into the building. This high-tech solution reduces the energy required for air conditioning by 50%. Additional intelligent systems manage building control, building security, telecommunications, fire alarms, and a safety plan. The most visible of these systems are the double-deck lifts that carry 26 passengers on each deck, increasing energy efficiency and use of space. 170 metres above the ground, a sky bridge connects the towers and allows occupants of each building to use shared facilities on the 41st and 42nd levels. It also serves as an escape route in emergencies. The sky bridge is also an attractive viewing platform for visitors to look out over the city of Kuala Lumpur. Externally, the effect of the bridge is to unify the two towers. The bridge is supported by an inverted V-shape with struts that are mounted to the towers by spherical bearings that allow movement in all directions. At the heart of the towers are a series of high-strength concrete cores, their small size allowing an increase in floor area and natural light. A box-shaped central core of 23 metres square carries all the elevators, stairs, mechanical and electrical shafts. A further 16 cylindrical columns provide further support. These are 2.4 metres thick at the base, but narrow as they reach the top. This is the first use of high-strength concrete in Malaysia and represents a significant transfer of technology. This structure enables the towers to withstand winds of 135 kilometers per hour. At the base of the towers, a shared entrance lobby provides access to a wide variety of social, art and retail amenities. These include a state-of-the-art concert hall and an atrium of over 300 shops. Petronas Towers have become a fashionable and popular visiting place in Kuala Lumpur. They successfully combine high technology with an iconographic sense of cultural identity, an important and inspiring landmark of the region.